Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Cork in the North podcast. Hope you're all doing well. Before we crack on into this week's episode, I want to talk to you about the Doyen pub on the Lisburn Road. We're fans of them and they're fans of us. They have been our sponsor all year. Of course they have. We love them. Okay, and if you can go down there on a Wednesday to a Saturday, you don't have to stay over. You pop in, you pop out, you get 25% off your food. If you use the code CORK25, so you get 100% of the food for 75% of the price. And at times like this, when the bills are going up, the heating's coming back on, the weather's getting worse, you want to go out now, fill your belly with a bit of food, pop into the Doyen on the Lisburn Road. They've got parking, they've got toilets, they've got a function room that you can hire for weddings, funeral, your granddad's 30th. There's loads of things you can do in the Doyen. Go down there, watch a bit of sport, have a cocktail, take him out, take her out, treat the family, book a little lunch in, surprise them, 25% off. Even if you go around and get a whip round, pretend it was 100%. You're actually making a profit. Think outside the box. Or some people say, think inside the box, because the majority of people are thinking outside the box, right? That's how I would do it, okay? So the Doyen pub, discount Cork25, 25% off your food. See the links below here on the YouTube. Walk in, tell them Cork in the North sent you, and they will look after you. A great spot. We are also doing a live podcast there on the 22nd of September. There's about 15 tickets left. Starts Sunday, 3 o'clock to 5. A bit of crack, ladies and gentlemen, down at the Doyen. Book yourself in for a bit of food beforehand when you come down. Make a day of it. Have a day. Make a day of it. You get home for 5. You don't have to even get a taxi. You won't be hungover. We're changing the game. And the Doyen is helping us change that game. So please do support the Doyen. Don't forget to sign up to the Patreon, £2 a month for 3 extra episodes. It really does support the podcast and also my wedding costs. Joining me this week on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, is a man I've worked with a good few times, and it's his first time ever on Cork in the North podcast. He's going on a big tour across the North. You will all know him from his hosting the Blame Game, Give My Headpiece, etc. It's Tim McGARRY.
Oh, Andrew, thank you very much. By the way, the Doyen, an excellent spot.
It is an excellent spot. You frequent it.
I remember when it was the King's Head.
Yes, it's been fully refurbished. The King's Head is gone.
The King's Head is no longer.
Yeah.
There's no more. And I did a gig in there recently, and it's a lovely comedy club.
They do comedy, yeah. Producer Sean runs the comedy there.
I found that out when he came to find me, because I got lost getting my way here, ladies and gentlemen. I got excellent directions from Andrew Ryan.
Go. I got awful directions from me. To send Sean out. To send him out.
Sean had to walk about half a mile to come and find me.
And I'll be honest with you, Sean deserves that exercise.
He does.
Good to see you, Tim. Now, you're obviously a stand-up for many, many years, and you're known for doing lots of different things, documentaries, panel shows, your TV show, Give My Headpiece, but you're going back out on tour now for the first time in how many years?
Oh, about 8 years.
Why is it taking 8 years for you to go? Because you're a natural stand-up. Well, why is it normally, comics go out every 2 years? Why is it 8 years?
Because I've been busy and I'm not really a natural stand-up. I kind of went into stand-up via the Give My Headpiece stuff.
I've seen you perform numerous times. I would say you're quite natural at it. Like you are a stand-up. I know you may have fallen into it, but you are a proper stand-up.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I really enjoy stand-up. We do a tour of Give My Headpiece every year. We do a show all over the North, and it's the characters in Give My Headpiece. But in the middle of it, I do a 20-minute stand-up.
Yeah.
In the middle of it, and that always goes down very well. So I thought, well, why not just extend it a bit? I've done shows. I did a one-man show about Irish history called Tim McGarry's Irish History Lesson.
Yeah.
And then I did one 8 years ago about 1916, about the Somme and the Easter Rising. Made them funny. So
never heard of that.
The Battle of Somme, very good. It was hard to make fun of that, but I love being out on the road. I do love doing it, and there's so many clubs now that there's, as I said, the Doyen, and people kept asking me to come and do a wee gig here, there, and everywhere, all over the place. The Moy, have you been? I did a gig in the Moy.
I've driven past it now. I just kept focused on the road, but I have driven past it.
Go to the Moy.
Is that Tyrone?
That is, that's very, you need to be very careful there. That is on the border between Tyrone and Armagh.
I mean, what are they arguing about, really?
Well, I mentioned GAA something, and for 20 minutes, 100 people just shouted at each other, going, up Armagh, Tyrone, this is before the one they
you're in the Wild West when that happens.
Oh, yeah, they get very, very excited. Yeah. They get very excited. I've been in Armagh recently, and they're very excited about winning that Sam Maguire thing.
Yeah, and hopefully now they'll wait another 20 years. Anyway,
well, right. You don't see, you Free Staters, you do not
why are you calling me a Free Stater?
You're from Cork.
I'm from the South. I'm from the Republic. I'm Irish.
You're a Free State.
Is that what you call us, the Free Staters?
Yeah, you betrayed the people of Ireland.
I didn't vote in it. I didn't vote in it, Tim. I wasn't alive.
Betrayed the people of Ireland, signed the treaty in 1921.
Oh, yeah, like I was doing me leaving that year.
All right, it's not entirely your fault, but basically people from Cork.
My grandfather was in the IRA.
Is that right?
He fought. He was imprisoned and everything.
Right.
So in the 1920, he was very because obviously back then, from what I know, it was a very young person's war, and things that happened in 1916 and leading up to the formation of the two states and all that, up to, was it 1922, isn't it, or something like that?
1922.
So I think he was involved in stuff like that. He ended up going to prison in Dundalk.
Oh, wow.
And he died in, I'm going to say the 80s, and he married my grandmother when he was 40 and she was, I think, 19, and they had 13 kids.
13.
And then my uncle became the head of the Irish Civil Service, and he was the one that brought in DNA legislation. And he brought in, he was
DNA or DNA?
DNA,
Right,
DNA fingerprints and all that,
okay.
the legislation. And he was actually ratting up the RA at one point because the Southern government obviously was caught in this middle thing.
I had a great aunt who I only met very at the end of her life, who was. We were a very respectable middle-class family. My grandfather was a solicitor, but his sister was very heavily involved in the old IRA, so heavily involved that she was completely anti-treaty, lost her job when Northern Ireland was set up because she refused to take an oath of allegiance that you had to as a teacher, and then was so stuck with and then hung on with the old IRA in the 30s and 40s, was interned during the Second World War, was in Armagh jail. Led a hunger strike during the Second World War in Armagh jail, and was still very chucky right up to the very, very end. She died about 1972, and God love her. The time, there was a lot of trouble going on in Belfast at the time, and my uncle, who was another solicitor, was organising her funeral and had to get her from the Mater Hospital through various British roadblocks, and all the soldiers stopped and saluted this coffin, and all the family were going, "Oh, she will not like this. She is spinning in that coffin."
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but she was proper old IRA. A kind of nowadays she's basically a dissident. I mean, she just refused to accept the treaty and all of that, and hung on to the very, very end.
Do you have a lot of bitterness to the South?
No, not at all. No, not at all. It's all a bit of crack. No, genuinely, I do this history show, The Long and the Short of It, with David Hume and Orange Man.
Yeah. I've the Long and the Short of It. I've seen it on the.
Yeah.
Did you say you were like a married couple or something?
Yeah, we more or less are. Yeah, it's called The Long and the Short of It because he's 4'0" and I'm 6'4".
Yeah.
It's funny. The last time we were in Cork, we were down at Bale na Blah doing
Michael Collins. Yeah,
doing the life of Michael Collins, and he and I have a bit of banter about Irish history, taking it seriously, but also kind of a bit respectful, to each other's views. I hate to say this, but I'm becoming slightly more sympathetic to the Unionist cause because of him. And I would have been a soft, mild nationalist. My family would have been SDLP-ish, but with David has been really, really good. And I've taken him places and, discussed things with him that are uncomfortable for him and vice versa. And it's been.
I suppose you get such a great understanding of each other then, don't you?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, I'll be honest with you, this is still a very heavily divided society. I didn't know an Orange Man, wouldn't have been friends with an Orange Man, a proper Orange Man, until I met him in my 50s, when I'm the first one I really knew.
And can I ask you a question? When you're like filming and whatever, and you're going around, you're doing your thing, and when you're not on camera, maybe you go for a pint or a bit of dinner and stuff like that, and you actually sit down at the table and you're talking about kids or family or sport, anything that's away from politics, away from what you're actually working as. Like, do you get on? Like, just as two fellas, like, just
100%.
like, me kids are killing me this week. Like, do you have this with your kids?
Yeah.
Is it like, it's very normal, isn't it?
100%. I actually drove him to Cork and I got completely lost.
It's a straight road, Tim.
It's
a straight road, Tim.
No, I ended up in Wicklow, and then he ended up heading towards Wexford. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, you missed the slip road in Dublin by the M50, did you? Yeah.
That's where I found him this morning.
So I'm notoriously good, but he's very easy to go on a 5-hour car journey with, even though it should be only a 3-hour car journey. So absolutely. And we've been filming. We're actually filming last week. We were in Trim Castle discussing the Normans, and then we're up in Pettigo discussing the Boundary Commission.
And is this all for BBC and I?
This is for BBC.
This should be kind of stuff should be shown on RTE as well, don't you
I
think?
would agree with you. If you know anybody in RTE, we're trying to sell it to RTE.
No, but like, you know what I mean? This kind of like whole island needs to, especially in the last sort of like, 8 years since Brexit, and at the border and the sea border and all these things are back in the news again about, Northern Ireland's place and all this, about Brexit and change of governments in England and all this. And lack of stormont and all that. There's a lot more focus on the North now and the issues of the North because of this, whereas before it was kind of just plodding along, you know. And also the recent votes with the change in the vote share and the First Nationalist First Minister, etc. Like the South, I've always said it, like the South needs to pay a little bit more attention to the goings on of the nuances, the daily life up here. They just hear the headlines. They don't actually see what it actually has to offer away from politics and stuff, you know?
No, absolutely. Funny, our sound man is from he's a Galway man, a Clare man.
That's awful, that Clare.
He's like yourself, he's come up and married somebody from the North. But we're doing this history show and he goes, there are big chunks of this that Southern Irish people don't get at all.
Yeah.
Things like the Lauren Gunring. I mean, one of the lessons we're getting as we go through is that Southerners and Republicans and Nationalists just do not understand or get unionism, don't understand why.
Yeah.
They have this notion that once the Brits leave, the Unionists will just go, that's lovely, we'll join a United Ireland.
No, they're part of the furniture.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so you have to...
They are the British presence, yeah.
Yeah, you know, they...
And Brits out there can go, I don't want to go, all right, you can stay. We've only been here 400 years. I know we don't like our immigrants now, but they've been here 400 years. Give them a buck and break, you know.
Yeah. Look, we'll give them up some butter vouchers or something. No, but like they're as entitled to be here.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Course.
So it's about like saying to yourself, like, look, if we're going to try and build a better place, we all need to build a better place, and we all need to respect everyone's individual identity, whether you're Irish, British, French, or Polish, or whatever it is. You know,
and it's taken a long time for that to filter through, but I think it is filtering
generations.
through.
It keeps
it's generations.
bits of progress every so often.
If we stop shooting each other, it always helps, you know, because that causes a lot of. I mean, just begets more.
Shooting bad.
Shooting bad. That's the lesson of the
shooting,
Cork and the North.
To everyone listening today, I just want to make sure that me and Tim are on the same page. Shooting is bad. Shooting bad.
Okay, stop it.
Pints, good. Shooting bad.
Pints again, it's very good.
Tim, I've learned a good few things about you.
Have you done research?
You're a humanist.
I am a humanist.
Explain to me how you came to it, because when you were very young, you were interested in the Christian Brothers. You became a humanist. You were a solicitor as well.
Yeah.
You've had you've come from, how would you say, you've come from from the place where you are today, the journey, you've passed a lot of different roads. Right. Haven't you? Wouldn't you say that?
Well,
religion. You became atheist quite when you were a teenager.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I came atheist fairly young. My mother was very, very religious, and I had started skipping mass and doing all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And
I was an altar boy. I was the first altar boy in Ireland to be made redundant. Hating.
I quite like being an altar boy because you got a few quid for.
I got nothing. I used to, you know, when he puts the hand over the bread, he goes in the Lamb of God. You got to ring. I'd forget to ring it. You look at me, I'm like, what?
You had one job, Andre. Ting, 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 ting. But I started going, I don't believe this really. I don't. Yeah, it's that, you know, the great Father Ted moment with Dougal, you know, that bit where
heaven, hell, and all that.
Yeah, heaven,
it's far-fetched, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the bit I have a problem with. But again, people take their religion very seriously in this country. So I only came out very recently as a full-time atheist. And I do jokes about it and stand up about, you know, being an atheist and my religious background and stuff. And sometimes I feel quite guilty because my mother, people think, I'm having a go at my mother, who was very, very devout, and I mean that in a proper way. And I'm not having a go at my mother, and I don't want to, you know, disrespect her views, and maybe I'm a bit less militant than I used to be. But I don't buy it, you know. I don't buy religion.
Well, my mother passed away 5 years ago, and she was quite religious woman. She wouldn't go to mass as much, but she had her beads, and she was a Padre Pio fan. She would pray and stuff like that. And when
Neil Delamere had the mitt at one stage, I think his mother had Padre Pio's mitt.
Oh yeah, like my mother was like, if there was an OnlyFans for Padre Pio, my mother would have signed up. Like, she lapped him up.
Oh yeah,
like if he turned up in the Devonish and he was in the Pleasure Boys, she would be straight up to watch Padre Pio, right? But towards the end of her life, the last 6 months, she was very friendly away from the church with the local priest. Anyway, because they had my mother was a volunteer as well for teenage pregnancies, for young girls who got pregnant. She worked for a charity, and she did a bit of voluntary work for people who were suffering from anxiety, and she did counselling and all this, and people who were victims of domestic violence. So she actually worked with the local priest quite a bit in help setting up women for refuge and stuff, you know. And he would come to the house, and I have no interest in it now, Tim. I wouldn't have any interest in it like yourself, right? And I'd be like, oh, here's the priest. And she would go in and they'd chat for 20 minutes and have a cup of tea and the biscuits and the usual kind of stuff that you do. And he'd leave. And she would always be in great form after he left. And I went, you know what? This isn't for me. But
She's getting.
I have to respect the fact that my mother gets a kick out of this. And over time, towards the end, you know, she loved seeing him and she got great hope out of it, great comfort. And I thought, you know what, who am I to go around and tell people what they can and cannot get comfort from?
100%.
And you know what, ever since then, I kind of looked at it a bit differently. I still wouldn't, you know, I'm still not a religious person, but I understand what people get from it now.
My mother got great comfort and did go to Mass literally every day. And sadly, she got Alzheimer's towards the end and was in a nursing home. And I remember we were in the nursing home, and one of the questions they asked you was, what religion you are, and blah, blah, blah. And they asked my mother, what did you think about death? What was her view of death? And she literally said, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. She was feeling. She knew she had Alzheimer's. She knew she was losing it, but she had that deep faith that she went. I'm going to see my late father up in heaven, and this was a huge comfort to her. And you know, so I do respect things like that. Now, this is absolutely true. My mother was the most Catholic woman in Ireland. She thought Pope Benedict was a bit too left wing, and she genuinely she died.
Imagine he's a bit too left for me.
She died on the 10th of July 2008. We had to bury my mother on the 12th of July. The 12th of July. So her last act on this earth was to stop about 150 people getting a march.
Oh wow, that's mad. That's really interesting. Like how those things collide, there, isn't it? Yeah. Well, you were a solicitor for a while as well.
I was a solicitor in private practice, and then I was an expert in anti-discrimination law. I was involved in the Fair Employment Commission that was set up in 1990. Religious discrimination and employment.
Law and stuff was all in the family, though.
Yeah, well, one side of the family, and the McGARRY side is all medical. My father was a surgeon in the Manor Hospital, and brother is a psychiatrist, and my brother-in-law is a consultant, and my mother was a nurse, and my sister's a nurse. So they were all medical, and I catered the side of blood, and then my mother's side were all legal. So my grandfather was a solicitor, and my uncle was a solicitor. So funny enough, I ended up in the Fair Employment, which was fighting religious discrimination and employment and nepotism and stuff. But my first job was nepotism. My uncle literally gave me a job. And nepotism comes from the Latin nepos, meaning uncle, and was literally my uncle gave me a job.
So you're fighting nepotism while being a nepo.
So then I went to the Fair Employment Committee. In 1990, they introduced a really powerful Fair Employment Act because it was a major issue up here, you know, particularly.
Yeah,
and it literally disappeared in about 10 years. That piece of legislation stopped people discriminating because they enforced made big employers count the number of Catholics and Protestants because they used to not count them. And then firms would go, I have no idea what religion Andrew Ryan is. How dare you ask me what religion Andrew Ryan is? And I know he wanted to go to Lourdes, and but I had no idea that he was a Catholic at all. So they said, well, you literally have to ask.
Well, I think the fact that he's sitting there in a Cork Gaelic football top and he's got a picture of the Pope on his face, I wouldn't know what he is. Is he a Sikh?
Exactly. So it was all that nonsense started, and so I was heavily involved in some of the early cases in the Fair Employment Commission, which was very successful. And then I moved from there I sorted out religious discrimination. It took me 2 years, and then I moved to the Equal Opportunities Commission, fighting sex discrimination. That took a little longer, but I used to be an expert in maternity
rates.
How
did you come out of it after the years?
Well, because we were doing the comedy on the side. Myself and two other guys, Damon Quinn and Michael McDowell, were the Hole in the Wall gang. We were literally we were doing stuff. We'd done radio shows, and we were doing sketch shows around the country and stuff. And we got to the point where we're going, are we taking this seriously or are we not?
Something's got to give.
Something's got to give, and it was hard work kind of balancing the two, and we've been quite successful. We had a radio show that went really well on Radio Ulster and won a national award. It's won a Sony Award for Best Comedy in 1992.
Wow. And
we sat in our arses thinking somebody will ring us up going, well, here's your TV show, guys. And it doesn't work like that, obviously.
No,
so we eventually said, right, in 1996, we're going to give it a couple of years to see if we can go full time at the comedy. The good thing about was I was working as a solicitor for an Equal Opportunities Commission, which is a Quango, a sort of quasi-autonomous non-governmental organisation, which means it was kind of civil service, which means I could take a career break. So I was able
for the year, you take a career break for a year,
break, and then for another year, and then eventually 5 years. So it had all gone belly up, and it didn't make any money, and I could come crawling back and be a solicitor again.
Yeah, I love all these civil service workers, right? Because I used to work in a civil service, right? And in the south, if you work in a civil service and you go off sick, sick, you get 90 days full pay. The amount of people that recovered from their illnesses on the 89th day was unbelievable. Full pay for 3 months, but the minute the full pay was going down to half pay, they were back in the office and I'm fine now. I wasn't myself for 89 days. What a coincidence.
You know Forget Lord.
Forget Lord. Just cut the pay. You know what I mean? My first time meeting you, I appeared on The Blame Game many years ago. Geez, I'd say it was 2015, 2016. I did an episode. I've only done one episode, not invited back.
No.
I'm only joking.
Nothing to do with me, by the way.
I know. I'm only joking, by the way. I haven't
Andrew
actually...
would be brilliant on The Blame Game.
I actually haven't asked to come back in. Okay? So don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay.
That was the first time in my life I ever did a panel show, right? When I went on The Blame Game. The Blame Game is... Geez, how long are you hosting it now?
Oh, 17 years?
17 years, right?
I did get sacked one year, but which I still am very bitter about.
Oh, did you?
I got sacked.
What happened?
They decided they need to revamp it, and they decided that what they would do would be like, have I got news for you, and rotate the host. Except the difficulty is that in Northern Ireland there aren't as many A-list stars, so they ended up with
somebody from Kerry talking about the DUP or something like that.
They ended up with William Crawley, the serious news presenter, doing one and stuff, and then they eventually asked me back, but it was still.
And did you get? How did you get that phone call?
Oh, yeah.
Were you pissed off? Obviously, you were pissed off.
Genuinely pissed off.
But when you got called back, did you go, well?
Well, no.
Who is crawling back? What? How much am I getting paid? Yeah, double it. Double it.
No, it's BBC Northern Ireland. That never happened. But I said, when I got sacked, I got a phone call from Neil Delamere. He was going, Tim, the BBC are bastards. By the way, I'm still doing the show without you now. You know that. But that's terrible. I'm very sorry for you.
But you're back in, obviously, now.
I'm back in now.
But when you came back in, what were they like? Were they sheepish or what?
They
very
were,
professional.
There were a few people.
I suppose people in TV have to make decisions at times. But then again, your guys are so established and you're part of the furniture. And it's probably the longest panel show, is it?
Yeah,
I know Mock the Week was quite long, but I'd say you're probably up there across the UK and Ireland anyway, as being the longest, definitely in Ireland anyway.
If I get news for you, is ridiculous.
But you are up there, but you're very specific and it's very unique, and it's kind of like only this kind of part of the island will get the majority of it, and it's good that there's something like that for this section, because the life here and living here and the politics here is incredibly unique. But when you host it, do you ever think to yourself, oh, what a great series, we can't top that, and the next thing you know, we can, because this place is just a constant news cycle of batshit stuff.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
I mean, the politicians here and politics here has put my kids through university. I've always said that, and it's one of the best gigs in the world, because I sit back and just kind of enjoy, Neil Delamere, Colin Murphy, now doing it. Used to be Jake and stuff like that, and the guests. Sometimes I forget that I've hosting to do, and then I've got Jackie Hamilton in my ear. That sounds rude, but yeah, Jackie's the producer, so I have an earpiece, and he's going like, "Move it on," or "Not moving off on that question," or "Bring Andrew Ryan," and he hasn't said anything for 15 minutes. That sort of thing,
If you actually watch my episode, I got 3 clap breaks. 3 clap breaks. I got. It's on YouTube. 3 clap breaks.
Not that he's counting.
Was I invited back? Was I? Do I look bitter about it?
3? You got 3. Oh wow!
Well anyway, look forward to my new show on ITV, on UTV. It's going to be called "Who Do We Blame?" It's my new panel show.
Yeah, but I love it because
it's a great show. But I tell you something, that's the first panel show I ever did, and it's the last one I've ever done.
Right.
I came away. This is my vision. I loved it, but I am not at the time. Maybe now, that conversational style of banter, I wouldn't have done podcasts or anything, but now I'm a bit more relaxed around it. I didn't have a lot of knowledge about the North. No, now I think because I'm living here and I've had 4 years here, and now I can actually
fiancé.
Yeah, by my Protestant fiance, and she's Irish now. No, she's not.
She always was.
No, let's not get involved. I'm going to get in so much trouble for that, right? Shooting is bad. Shooting is bad. Drinking is good, right? Drink responsibly. Gamble aware. But I did it and I was relieved to have done it. And when I looked back in it, you do knew that when you look at it, you go, do you know what a friend of mine said to me, you did good, you held your own, and But it's one of those things. And I imagine the first time you did it, the first time you hold it, you grow in.
100%.
You know what I mean? So these things take time, you know?
100%. I mean, I've the script, the bits, I have the links, and they're kind of important because they nearly always go in because they have to go in because of the links. So there's an onus on that has to be funny. Yeah. But you know, the level of, and people always say, oh, is it prepared? Well, it's television, it's prepared up to a point. That, you know, we know the questions in advance and people will have stuff prepared. But the level of stuff that is completely off the top of the heads of Neil and Diona and Colin and the guest. I mean, it's through the roof. I mean, the half of the time is completely unscripted. The audience love it. The audience, and you can tell exactly when the audience are liking it. We did a lot of shows during lockdown, and we had the people on screens and stuff. It was just really hard work. But with a live audience in there, it's just a joy to do. Yeah,
that's brilliant. There's when the flow is going as well, and everyone's hitting the beats, and it's like the audience are getting it.
Exactly.
I remember doing warm up for a couple of panel shows in England. And like 8 out of 10 cats does countdown and all them. And I was doing one night for a show, and there was a couple of guys sitting in the crowd, and I was looking at them going, "You're not. I've seen you in the green room 2 minutes ago." There was security,
right,
just in case there was a threat against somebody on the show.
Right.
So security went and sat in the audience just in case people got into the audience to try and have a pop at them. Now, because of your show and what you do, and the jokes you do, and obviously with the politics and everything that goes on up here and there, have you ever had, in the 17 years that you're doing it, a sort of like a phone call that goes, right, we've had an issue here with a comment or a joke about this party or this person, you know?
Occasionally, very occasionally, but the BBC like to protect us from that. Now, unlike podcasts, which are, you know, there's no editor, there's no production team, there's no...
Say what you want about him. Say what you want about him.
I mean, he's brilliant. He's brilliant, but clearly he's not he's not experienced in... You haven't been sued yet, have you?
No. Shooting is bad. Shooting is bad.
Way. We want to keep it that way.
Yeah. Have you had issues with politicians because of what's been said?
I write a script we record on a Thursday night, and I deliver a script about a Thursday lunchtime, and then that goes up the stairs to the BBC. To legal. And then we record about an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half sometimes, it was a good night, and then cut that down. But again, when that's edited, you know, there's a BBC person in the room while it's being edited who will go, not sure about that, or... You know, and sometimes, you know, politically it's been difficult because the Shinners have been, for a particular period of time, weren't doing anything apart from sitting on their arse laughing at unionists, making a mess of Brexit and stuff. So sometimes you're going, right, are we having a go at unionists all the time? And we try to maintain a balance.
Yeah.
Not an artificial balance. Not of, we've done 2 jokes about the DUP, we have to do 2 about Sinn Féin. But, you know, an overall balance as much as we can. And the BBC are aware of that as well. And sometimes you get people going, why is there no funny Protestants?
Yeah. So it's coming back, has been commissioned again for another series?
We're only doing 4 this run, unfortunately, but we're doing 4 from end of November to sort of Christmas time.
So, and already, do you collect stuff? I know there's researchers and people that do the prep and give you stuff, but as when you're not filming the Blame Game and you see something pop up and you go, oh, when the Blame Game comes back, I'm going to put this in a little notepad. Is that what you do? Is that how do you do? Because it is topical, so you can't be like, oh, let's talk about this. You go, well, that was 8 months ago and it's kind of moved off. How do you, because I don't do topical stuff, so how do you, like, I remember like having a joke about something happening in 2012 and I was like furious that I had to get rid of it. You know what I mean? So does it frustrate you that the topical side of things really bugs you? Because
it does. Do you know what I mean? Because you go through, sometimes I'll go, when I'm doing stand-up, I'll go through some of the old Blame Game scripts and go, all right, there must be something in here, and go, that was hilarious, but it's a year ago. It doesn't,
you know what I mean? You can't really do it, like, you know what I
mean? And I used to do a show, a wee bit, there was a political show here called Hearts and Minds, and at the very end of it, I was a taxi driver driving the host Noel Thompson back home, and I had a sort of 35 to 40 second slot basically going, some carry on this week, and it basically 8 jokes in 35 seconds, but it was all topical. It was all based on that week's news and what had happened and what the politicians had said and stuff. And so every bloody week I was just watching the news and going, right, okay, that's a very silly story. I could link that with that one over there, and that's a, you know, it'll move that one, and then I can stick that one at the top. And then I wrote it on a Thursday morning again and recorded at sort of Thursday lunchtime. So every bloody week I was watching the news.
You're on it, like you're constantly looking, aren't you?
You're constantly looking at it, you know. So
I used to love that. That wee bit, that wee like.
You see, I like him. He's a very good man. A, he likes the stuff I do, and B, he comes out and he gets you even if you're half a mile away from where you're.
Because I'd be watching Hearts and Minds, and you know, like you have to get through all the drab, like political conversations, and then you get the funny wee like taxi journey bit.
Yeah, I did get that. Some people said that's the best bit of the show because it basically summarised the entire week's news in 35 seconds.
That's mad. I remember we had Mike Nesbitt in here. He was the former leader of the Ulster Unions when he came in.
Nice.
He's now back to be in the Ulster Unions when you come in. So when you see something like of all these political change, Robert Swan has just announced that he's stepping down. Obviously, what's happened with Jeffrey Donaldson, the DUP, the new elections with the SDLP leader stepping down. And you're thinking, right, we're back in November. We're like, right, okay.
Yeah.
Do you actually start now? Would you actually be thinking yourself, right?
No, I'm still worried about this stand-up show that I'm doing.
Right.
So once I get the first couple of those under my belt and go, all right, and then I'll like my mother used to be a great worry. I'll leave that worry to one side, and then but once I get 2 or 3 of the new show under my belt, I'll go, all right, Blame Game's coming up. I better start thinking about what into that. But I also throw when I'm doing stand-up, I also throw in a few topical gags, as much as I can. I always try to keep it up.
Yeah, like I was in Fermanagh doing a show there at the weekend, and Gay Pride was on, and then there was
First Pride
as Pride was on, there was also religious speakers outside who were against being gay as a sin and all that. I remember just standing looking at him, just thinking to myself, I was trying to think of a joke that I could open with at the show. I was thinking, right, Gay Pride, and then they're on one side, and then the anti-Pride people are on the other side. Right, Fermanagh. And I was sitting down, I was trying to say, how can I open the show? Because when the audience come and see you, that first 30 seconds is very important, right?
That's very, very important.
And then I said, I'm just going to pull out there. I'm not going to take the risk because I'm trying to figure it out.
You miserable, cringy.
Do you know what I mean? I was trying to figure it out. And then I made a joke and I was like, what do we want? I was like, Gay Pride. I said, what do we want? More cock. When do we want it? Jesus says no. I was trying to come up with all these kind of lines, you know what I mean? And then I was just like, I am not a topical comedian. You know what I mean? Do you perform down south at all?
Very rarely.
Really? What do you like? Do you like going down south? Like, would you have gone down south a lot growing up? Do you like being down there? Like, what's your view on it?
Love Dublin. My brother lives in Dublin. Quite badly travelled down. I've never been to Kerry.
You're not missing much.
No,
you're not missing much.
Oh, come on.
No, the Ring of Kerry's lovely. No, Kerry's a lovely spot.
Yeah,
Kerry
love Donegal. I used to go to Donegal all the time. Had a wee house up in Kildaff in a show. Funny, we were down there and we were in Dublin there filming for the long and the short of it. We were in Trim. Never been to Trim before.
Yeah.
Lovely Norman castle.
Lovely.
One of the finest Norman castles in these islands, as they say.
Yeah, he was a lovely fella, Norman.
No, not the best. Norman, he arrived and he slapped us about a bit.
I didn't like him anyway. I always knew that about him.
Yeah, no, you don't like him.
He had a bit of a dark side, didn't he?
Yeah, very dark side.
Yeah.
We were all enjoying ourselves.
Coming in with a
Gaelic lords, playing our harp and
riding each other.
Riding each other and reciting poetry to each other, and then the Normans arrived and gave us a big slap and built a castle on our land. And
I think I can't go far. I don't know that far back, because there's the Vikings, there's the Normans. Yeah. I'm like, how far back do we go, lads?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you can start kicking off about stuff. At some point it has to end, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I argue, if you ever argue with a partner or somebody like and go, well, last week you said you would do this. And then they always go, well, 6 months ago you did this. I go, who decides how far back you go? Well, in 612, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Somebody, do you remember the film Belfast? Kenny Branagh brought out this film.
Yeah,
Belfast,
the black and white one.
The black and white one. And there was some criticism saying that he just started in 1969 and he didn't give any context and he didn't say how the Trouble started. And I used to do a joke and say, well, exactly, how was he going to explain how the Trouble started?
Yeah.
That film would have been 12 and a half hours long.
Yeah, where do you go? How far do you go?
Right.
Like,
the Normans invaded in 1169.
Yeah,
we go with a plantation. That was only 420 years ago. Let's start there.
But somebody else would go, well, actually, in 912. You know what I mean? Like, it keeps going far back, How have you found the Northern Ireland over the last 30, 40 years? Obviously, you've lived here your whole life, but how have you seen the change and everything like that? Like, you've seen it come on leaps and bounds? Are you quite proud of it? or you're also like, guys, we've done so much, but we're still letting ourselves down in this section? Like, how have you, when you look back on it, like, do you feel proud of how it's developed, or are you still frustrated?
A bit of both, because I'm a child of the Troubles. I turned a big age this year, so I'm 60. So
wow.
I was there for most of the Troubles, and it was not nice. It was very, very unpleasant.
Were you ever out in the street trying to calm things down, or did you ever how close was it to you, like, in terms of your life?
My father was a surgeon in the Mater Hospital in North Belfast, and was an expert in bullet wounds, and was a very, very busy gentleman. And he very, very rarely talked about his work or anything, but there was a couple of incidents where he was genuinely upset at things that had happened. So luckily, I was never involved in any violence. My family would never have been that sort of, militant or anything like that. But he kind of, disabused me of any notion that killing or dying for Ireland or Ulster was in any way noble or a good thing to do. It was miserable and horrible, and just perpetuated bitterness and all of that. We have come a long way from that. If you look back in the Troubles, you go, what a fucking waste of time and energy and everything. It was absolutely pointless. But we have come a long way. But I do a lot of work for the Integrated Education Fund. And you think, here we are in 2024, and we still take 4-year-old kids and go, right, you're going to the Protestant school and you're going to the Catholic school. Yeah. And then we're surprised that there's still a sectarian element to this society. Our politics is still basically, there's a big Protestant party and a big national Catholic party. I mean, that's ridiculous in 2024.
And hopefully this new programme for government can kind of try and make some strides into changing that.
Well, I was thinking my show will probably, bring people over the edge. What you need
is a load of 4-year-olds. When you go on tour now, I see you at the Armagh Market Hall, right? All right, Catholics on one side, right? Mingle. Exactly. But you know what amazes me about living here, Tim, is the whole Catholic Protestant thing. To me, doesn't seem like an issue, because in 4 years now, one person has ever brought it up to me. I know we're talking about it here, and we would very kind of rarely talk about it on the podcast or in actual normal daily life. It's not. It's become
an issue, a lot less.
It's very little.
It has become a lot less.
That's brilliant.
But at the same time, it's still there. I mean, our entire political system is based on a sectarian head count. Well, the entire state's based on a sectarian head count. And yes, people are far more relaxed about it, and people aren't religious anymore. That's kind of gone from. I mean, I remember when I grew up, we were still a very, very religious society, and 80 to 90% of people went to Mass, whether they wanted to or not.
You're only going to Mass to be seen to be at Mass.
But now, I mean, it's, people are cultural Catholics and cultural Protestants. But, you go online and mention, anything about Casement Park, look at the sectarian bile that you'll get underneath it. It's still there. It's not nice.
But I like how it's moved from the streets to the phone.
Yes.
If you think
can't
about
switch it off.
If you think about it.
You don't have
to. If they're not doing it on the street, they're sending you a shitty message with bad spelling. You think, you know what? That's actually improvement.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's only gone to a comment on a phone, I think that's better than being attacked in the street. That's improvement.
Metaphorical bricks over the wall.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can turn it off. You can put up a post like this whole case. I mean, the whole Casement thing. I saw Michelle O'Neill at an event at the SSE. I went to the Ireland's Future conference.
Right.
And she said, like on stage, she said, Casement Park will be built on my watch. Right. Now, I don't. Personally, you have zero chance of this being ready for the Euros. It's too late now.
You think so?
In my opinion. 2027.
You're not a builder.
2028.
See that Norman Castle?
2027.
That Norman Castle in Bill, it's absolutely astonishing. It's massive. They built it in 10 years. And I said...
Yeah, but they had no fucking unions. They had no minimum wage. They had no health and safety.
Yeah, but they had hard work.
They didn't have TikTok and Instagram.
They didn't need their helmets and their high-vis jackets. They just got on with it.
I think 4 years is too short.
They didn't have cranes around. They didn't have...
The only way that's going to get built and fitting for if you get the Qataris over, because they would be able to build 10 stadiums. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think it might get built, but I think it'll miss. And I think the irony is that if Northern Ireland are playing in the European Championships, won't they have to go to Dublin?
I think so.
Which is so...
Yeah.
That to me sums up unionism. What do we want? We want our identity. We want to host a big tournament, but we don't want it in that stadium, so we'll go to the place that we don't like to play our games, to stick and give the Irish economy money. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous.
No, but that's Northern Ireland in a nutshell.
That sums up Northern Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What do we want? We want this, but we'll have to. It's kind of like they're constantly. They rather damage themselves than give the other people something.
Yeah. Well, that's Brexit in a nutshell as well. That's absolute nonsense.
Do you know what I mean? Talk to me about this tour. What's the tour about? What are you going to be talking about? What can people expect?
You laughed at me when I came into Q Radio. You laughed at me.
Oh,
you
yeah,
mocked
I did,
me.
yeah.
Do you know why you mocked me?
I
Because
did.
I produced. I'm going to do it. I produced
Yes. A
a
flyer.
leaflet, ladies and gentlemen, a flyer.
Yes.
Very 20th century. But this is.
But no, because I hadn't seen somebody do
You
it that
hadn't
way
seen
for a while.
But I'm old school. I was in Edinburgh
great.
in the late 80s handing out leaflets in the street. And I have a flyer for my one-man show called Ridiculous. I'm all over the place. It's basically based on funny enough, my dad was a very wise man and said the trouble with this country is we take ourselves far too seriously.
Very good.
And what we need to do is have a sense of our own ridiculousness. So I'll be pointing out the ridiculousness of sort of Northern Ireland politics and religion and life and all sorts of things. And you were talking about DNA. I took a deep dive DNA test.
Right.
I'll be revealing the results of that deep dive DNA
You're a
test.
unionist.
Well, we're all mixed up. Funny, I have some
we are.
Ulster
We
Scots.
are, yeah. I have some as well.
I have some Ulster Scots blood in me only a few generations back. You know, that's the bit of me that doesn't mind working but hates paying for things, you know. So that's only a few generations back, you know. And
we traced our family. My mother's side of the family, we're actually French royalty. We're from the French royal family. So I'm something like 92,000 in line to the throne. Something like that. So I deserve a bit of respect in here.
Ryan's.
Bit of respect. And then also, my dad had an uncle who emigrated to Argentina in the 20s.
Right.
In the 30s. Don't worry, he wasn't living in Germany at the time and he didn't do a runner out there. But he was from Westmeath, but he ended up joining the British police. Right. And obviously, you know, back then he kind of turned, but he ended up going to Argentina, and they've traced that there's a lot of Ryans in Argentina. Right. And they've done this whole big chain. But apparently, I don't know what the Ryan Gonzalez or something. I don't know what it is or what way it's developed or whatever. But apparently, like, you know, there's the South American there's a big chain of us down in South America.
Well, no, there was a lot of Irish in South America.
Yeah.
There always were a lot of Irish. What country is it that they adore a guy called Bernardo O'Higgins? Bernardo O'Higgins Brigade is it Chile or somewhere? Look that up.
Really?
Look up Bernardo O'Higgins, South America.
Producer Sean's going to look that up.
He's going to look that up.
Yeah. He's part of the recruitment drive for the UVF.
So yeah, well, see that
we're everywhere.
Well, Irish people are everywhere. I mean, the disgrace of us complaining about immigrants coming to Ireland.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
When you go, come and catch yourself on.
And they're saying like, they're coming over here and coming in crime. Would you believe it? I was watching something on the news there about this Irish guy in prison in Australia. I'm like, sure, there's Irish people in prison in England, Irish people in prison in Australia, New Zealand, and in America. What about all the Irish that went over to America illegally? If every Irish person had to go back to Ireland, the country's fucked.
Yeah, no,
we won't be able to cope with we won't be able to cope with the Irish living in Ireland.
No, you wouldn't be able to get a ticket for the All Ireland, I tell you.
You know what I mean?
Tough enough as it is.
What?
It's tough enough as it is.
Exactly.
Especially when our man.
Bernardo O'Higgins was the Supreme Director of Chile. He was
Chile. I got it right.
Yeah, he was the leader in the Chilean independence movement.
Thank you very much.
What year was that? Now, was this? Are we talking about? This is well before. Pinochet
So this is, early 1800s.
Oh wow!
Yeah, probably, liberating them from the Spanish, probably.
Yeah.
And then didn't Pinochet come in then?
No, that's 73.
There was a bit of a gap there, wasn't there?
There was a wee bit of a gap there.
But all those countries that fought for liberation, like they've all had this here. Like Christy Moore would sing songs about them, like, and they've all fought for their liberation, you know. And then what happens is the people that end up liberating them, they become corrupt as well. Well, power is very corrupting.
One of the most depressing things. I'm sort of historically a bit of a lefty. I was involved in a thing called the Nicaragua Solidarity Campaign when I was at university. And Nicaragua had a horrible right-wing dictator called Somoza, who was backed by the Americans, of course. But an organisation called the Sandinistas took over. A guy called Daniel Ortega took over in 1979, and they were very good and very left-wing. It's 2024. Who's in charge of Nicaragua today? Daniel fucking Ortega is still in charge
Right,
of
there you go.
Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And 50 years later, effectively, and you go, well, it's just kind of
It's just
so
constant,
depressing.
yeah.
There was a lot of idealism and stuff around that time.
Power is very addictive, isn't it?
Well, I
know, but like you see, like you even see it when in America, you see Trump and all that kind of stuff. And things like it's just like, man, just play golf.
Yeah,
just play golf. Just go and play golf,
and you win every time. You just
just
you're
go and
brilliant
play.
at it. You're
just
brilliant at
just
it.
go and play golf. Sit in your hotels, have the crack, talk shite, and just play golf. You don't need to become the president again.
I mean, his ego is rather special. I mean, it is the biggest ego ever. I mean, he
don't know where it comes from.
He makes Stephen Nolan look humble. That man, he really does. Have
you met Stephen Nolan?
He and I do not see eye to eye.
Do you not?
No, he blocked me on Twitter, which is a kind of claim to fame.
And you kind of work in the same building with him?
Well, not
with different times.
Different times.
So have you like I don't want to. You don't have to explain the reasons why, but like he is a very contentious figure. I've never met him. I've listened to him on 5 Live, and stuff like that. Like he does a lot of phone
different in 5 Live than he is in Radio Walsh.
Oh, is he? 5 Live now. He just calls in and he just chats to people. It could be quite light, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here it's very
yes.
Very different.
I'll not go into detail, but I'm not a huge fan of his oeuvre.
Well, surprise, surprise. Guess who is joining us here on the podcast? Will you please welcome Mr. Stephen Nolan?
Yes!
I was going to do that, Brian Clough and the Leeds, when he was managing Leeds.
The
Damned United. Now, I couldn't believe you're a Leeds United fan as well, because I'm a Cliftonville fan. And Cliftonville won the cup last year. I saw it.
Yes.
Fair play to you. And Leeds, would you go over much to Leeds?
I'm not stripping much here. But
what have you got on you here?
Well, I have on me the finest T-shirt ever made that my son, his mate, got designed. This is.
Wait, what's it say? The
Ronan
wait
Hale's
is over.
The wait is over. Cliftonville have done it 45 years. Cliftonville have ended 45 years of hurt.
Oh, wow.
That was the commentary, Forget they think it's all over. It is now. That's the commentary.
Or the one at Man United when they played Bayern Munich in 1999 when Clive Tilsley said, Man United must score. Man United always score. And then 3 minutes later, 2 goals.
Geordie Best left that match early.
George Best?
George Best was at that match.
Have you ever met George Best?
We actually did. I did meet George. George Best was on an episode of Give Me a Headpiece.
Really? What was he like?
He was brilliant. He was lovely. Very nice man. He did a wee vignette with us with what do you call Jackie Fullerton, because we had this very stupid plot based on a story we'd heard where I played Dad. My son Cal is a brilliant footballer, and Celtic wanted to sign him, but I ripped up the letter because I wanted him to go to a Republican H-Block rally. And he lost this chance to play for Celtic because I didn't tell him about it. And we got Georgie Best on and Jackie Fullerton to talk about, who was the best footballer ever. Was it Pelé or was it, George Best? He said, no, it was this young fella, Cal. He was unbelievable. He was just brilliant, the best I've ever seen. He was just so. I don't know why he didn't take up the football. Maybe he didn't want the birds and the booze and then the glamour and the money, and then the two of them just burst out laughing.
And in and around the set and stuff like that, like, did you actually get to spend a bit of time with him?
No, he was just on location, so we only had him for like half a day, just to do.
And in that half a day, when you weren't filming, what was he like?
He's great. Yeah, he's great. His wife was kind of looking after his financial affairs at the time, shall we say?
And was he healthy?
He wasn't bad at that. He was going through phases, the alcoholics do, and he was fine, and he was in good form, and Alex was looking after him. I think he was living in the Ards Peninsula at that particular time. So
he was down in. Apparently, he was down in a part of the Ards Peninsula where they don't have one pub.
Yeah, there's a wee village down there. Is it Portavogie? I think it is. They don't have a pub allegedly.
I suppose, and that was like the safest place.
You've never been there?
No. Is it Portavogie? Portavogie has pubs, doesn't it?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
No. I don't think so.
I think Portavogie.
Normally, in every town in this island, there's a GA pitch, 6 pubs, a post office.
I tell you why, right? Because I actually was down recently. I took a wee trip to Portaferry and hadn't really done much of the drive around.
Right. It's very pretty down there.
It's lovely. It is actually a fucking lovely part of the world. And I was driving through, and we were trying to find like a town with like a cafe or a bar, to stop in, get a bit of lunch. And I remember driving through there and seeing that there was like a caravan site, like for people to set up. And I was going, sure, why would you get a caravan down here? There's not one pub in this town. So I'm guessing same spot.
Definitely spot, yeah. Tim, talk to us, the tour. You're going everywhere. You're starting in a couple of weeks. You're in Antrim.
The first one is Friday week, so I'm a little bit panicky at the minute. And then I'm in Crumlin Jail and Newton Abbey and all over
Ballymena, Bangor, Armagh, Lisburn, Derry, Enniskillen, Belfast, Coleraine, Downpatrick's, Cookstown, Omagh, Portaferry. Jeez, you're everywhere.
I am everywhere. I'm really looking forward
to it. And it's your first tour in 8 years.
First tour in 8 years. Delighted to say.
And do you do it like two halves yourself?
No, I have a various support acts who go out and do the first half, and then I'll go out and do my bit for, you know, what normal time do you do for your bit if you're doing a solo show?
An hour.
An hour? See, I've heard an hour 10, and then some people said 55
But minutes. I do 15 at the top.
Oh,
so I go out, do 15.
Yeah.
Then I bring an act on.
Right.
That does about 15, 20. Break. I go back on, I do an hour. So I do an hour 15 in total, but I do it over two halves.
Okay, that's okay. With the first show I did far too much. I did literally 2 hours, and I had a support act as well.
That's too much.
That is too much. It is too much.
Do you know what I mean?
But I was educating the people as well about Irish history.
There you go. You just turn around to them every so often. Like,
less education this time, more laughs.
It's very hard when you got a load of 4-year-olds in the crowd mixing across the community going, guns are bad, shooting is bad, drink is good, drink is good.
Hang on, kids. Milk, lemonade.
Tim, where can people buy tickets to go and see you? Where can they come? I highly recommend Tim. I had Tim down at Clandyby Golf Course when I do my I do it every twice a year. We do a little gig down there, and Tim came down and closed it, and it was brilliant to see him, obviously, because I've seen him do TV shows, give him a headpiece, the hole in the wall, blah, 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 but to actually see him do the stand-up is as good as anything that he's ever done, and he's absolutely a brilliant stand-up comic, and I highly recommend if you want to go and see somebody who is very sharp, knows exactly what they're doing, and will also make fun of everything that we kind of go through living up here on a daily basis. So if you wanted to buy a ticket, Tim, we're going to put links up on the YouTube, on the Instagrams and all that. Where can people go?
Either davidhullpromotions.com or just Google Tim McGARRY Ridiculous and all the dates.
It all comes up. Just Google it.
Just Google it. Delighted to say the Lyric Theatre on the 16th of November is virtually sold out, so they're putting another one on the 17th.
2 nights at the Lyric.
2 nights at the Lyric.
I couldn't do that. Fair play to you.
Finest theatre, one of the finest theatre. Well, the Grand Opera House is really my favourite. We love playing the Grand Opera House. But the Lyric is lovely.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming into Cork and for being here for the first time.
Sorry for not finding it.
No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Tim is a great guest. Guys, everybody, go see Tim on tour. Absolutely phenomenal. We've had him in on the radio a couple of times. He's brilliant. Links below to the Doyen. Get your discount. Come to the live shows. Go see Tim.
Do I get a discount to the Doyen?
If you go to the Doyen for dinner, Wednesday to Saturday, anytime, you get 25. Say Cork, say I'm here because of Andrew Ryan's podcast.
Right.
And they'll go, right, there's your discount.
Wow.
Cork 25. They put it in as a little code, voucher code. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. That was brilliant, Tim.
Are you happy enough with that?
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Also, you know what I liked about that as well is like informative.